Councillor John McFadden.
Here.
Councillor Elaine Cowan.
Here.
Councillor Maureen Mackay.
Present.
Councillor Ian Linton.
Here.
Councillor Graham Barton.
Here.
I have an apology from Councillor Barry Douglas. Councillor Neil Ingram.
Here.
Councillor Claire Maitland.
Here.
Councillor Drew Filson.
Present.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Christine. Now go to part for any declaration of interest. I don't see anything obvious.
Chair.
Oh, maybe we'll get one for myself. Rugby park restrictions. I'm a shareholder of Kilmarnock Football Club. True.
Member of CCLP on the board, and I've took part in some of these projects here with the Lost Villages, so I'll just step down for that one.
And the CCLP board as well, council appointment.
Okay, and others? No. Okay. Go to commissioning and contracting arrangements, health and social care partnership, and Eric.
Thanks, Chair. This report seeks Cabinet approval for commission and contracting arrangements for 2 significant areas of service within the Health and Social Care Partnership for locality health and care. Those refer to Alzheimer's Scotland post-diagnostic support and locality community-based services for service users, families and carers affected by dementia, and also the framework contract agreement for care at home. The background notes the legal role of the IJB as a commissioning body, which is realised through the parties to the integration scheme, the Council and the NHS Board. Report for these 2 services was considered by the IJB at its meeting of the 1st of February 2023, and the board issued a direction to commission in line with the report through the Council. The report sets the commission in context in terms of the strategic planning priorities there at paragraph 7. It then goes on to note the new contractual arrangements, extension of contractual arrangements to coming to an end, and contractual arrangements coming to an end to be re-tendered. So the structure of the report should enable a more comprehensive and integrated commission and contracting report in future. The Alzheimer's contract proposes a renewal of post-diagnostic support, community-based supports on the basis of an updated specification, and that's been developed with Alzheimer's Scotland over 2022 and improves the alignment with population need. As paragraph 14 notes, this includes 2 post-diagnostic support link workers and 2 community activity organisers. The total cost here is £158,080 per annum, with a duration of 3 years and an option to extend for a further 12 months. The extension of contractual section arrangements relates to the framework for care at home. Paragraphs 16 through to 20 outline the specification for service delivery for personal care, the outcomes that are related to that, the regulatory compliance and eligibility. It's noted here that the policy direction and sectoral changes require review and redevelopment of the commissioning approach for us. The estimated value of commission services for 2023-24 is 1.5 million, and that reflects a 26% reduction we've seen over the last 12 months. The proposal is to extend the existing contract for a final 12-month period to the 31st of March 2024 to undertake this work. There's no contractual arrangements coming to an end or coming to an end to be re-tendered that are implicated by this report. The implications are set out through paragraphs 25 to 34, and the recommendations are there at paragraph 2 to approve commission and contractual arrangements, receive the IGB direction to implement contractual arrangements, and to note the contents of the report. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Eric. Any comments or questions? Neil?
Just a note on the Alzheimer's Scotland. We as a group of councillors were able to take advantage of the training that Alzheimer's Scotland provided and became Dementia Friends. It's definitely something that has a positive impact on our citizens and in the local area. Alzheimer's is obviously a really difficult emotive subject for a lot of people, and good to see that it's continuing.
I think that's been excellent amount of work for that. You know, so many of family members and friends that have been plagued with this illness, and it's good to see that the training opportunities just to help that wee bit more understanding of and how we can improve communication make people's the quality of life for these people that wee bit better. Any other comments? Graham?
Thanks, Leader. We're looking outside of Scotland's website about the post-diagnostic support, and they can concentrate on 5 key aspects, and it helps with the understanding illness and managing people's symptoms, support to keep community connections and make new ones, the chance to meet other people with dementia and their partners and families, the plans for future decision making, and the plan for future support. I really support this paper, and I think it's really important work. And thanks.
Eddie?
Thanks, Leader, and through you, I mean, we can see in terms of the contractual framework, the amount of work being delivered through partners is reducing over that time, but the overall demand is not reducing. So it would just be interesting, Eric, for you to talk to us a bit about the recruitment that's been growing in terms of social care staff and some of the challenges that we're finding there. I mean, because clearly I'm involved nationally and it's a massive issue nationally, so it's just about a reflection on how we're managing here locally.
We've got recruitment that's permanently open. Eddie, we're just constantly recruiting. We never have a closure in terms of community care officers. It's ongoing, and that was on the back of the best value review that we did, where the decision was to shift the balance of care increasingly in-house, and we've been doing that continually over the last 3 years. It's about how we work more collaboratively across the sector as well. So what we're moving towards just now is a big social care recruitment event that we'll have involving the whole of the sector, the whole of the workforce, and trying to make sure that we're getting as prominent publicly as possible to bring folk in and make sure that they are making a proactive, positive choice in terms of moving towards social care as a career, and just a whole range of opportunities that folk have got, trying to build a pipeline in terms of recruiting folk into social care as an active career choice, and building that with education colleagues as well. So that's kind of where we're heading with all of that, Eddie.
Thanks, Eddie. That's quite encouraging. Any other comments? Or okay, can we maybe just go straight to recommendations then and agree the recommendations in paragraph 2? Okay, thanks for that. Okay, we now go to service improvement plans. There's 4 of them here. Katie Kelly's going to introduce them. Katie, you're over there.
Good morning, members. I'm delighted to introduce the service improvement plans at the midpoint for this portfolio of services. So proud to lead this portfolio of services. We won't hear from ARA this morning because they're reporting, Kevin's reporting separate through Shared Services Committee and to full council. But you know, he's training to take. He'll be giving you all his update in the next couple of months. In terms of the ones that you'll hear today, just wanted to highlight a couple of things. Around health and safety, you'll hear from David Doran, and this is a service that's gone from strength to strength over recent years, particularly in the response to COVID. And I'm delighted to say that David's team have been shortlisted for the Local Government Chronicle Awards Small Team of the Year. And you've all been involved and know why that is. It's about the work they've done around defibrillators and procuring, getting money externally to make sure all of our communities are safe. And now looking to speak to the Scottish Government. They were talking to him yesterday to potentially roll that approach out to the whole of Scotland. But also particularly for me, I'm absolutely so proud of the work that's happened around mental health first aid and wellbeing. This goes beyond a health and safety team. David does all the health and safety work diligently, but they've extended their work wider into the community, and so you'll hear more about that. In terms of facility and property management, Andrew's really stepped into the role of leading for the whole council and partners for net zero, and we've made incredible progress strategically there, and you've all heard about that. And we were reflecting about 3 years ago, net zero had a couple of paragraphs in a report, and now we've got a full-scale strategy, and we're working from every direction to do our very best to meet those targets, but be so innovative in the process. But the other thing I would say about facility and property management, we've established a really good strategic underpin with the asset management framework. We understand our assets now and the way that we invest in them, and that's really helped us to look to how we can get best value for the council. Probably what they're best known for is the work around food and catering. And if you haven't been up to the Central Production Kitchen, please go. It's absolutely brilliant. And of course, last year, Andrew and his team got the Scottish Government Sustainability Award for the work around food. And it wasn't just about providing school meals, which is so important, or early years meals, but it was about the network of community food larders and our really innovative approach. And Andrew will talk to you about the Good Food Nation plan, which he hopes to bring forward to you later on in the year, which is going to bring all this work together. Blair Miller's been our Head of Service and Housing Committees for over a year now. He reminded me it's just flown past, and he continues to kind of trailblaze in terms of innovative housing development, new build, investment, and delivering a whole range of engagement with members in the wider community to really put our housing at the top of the league in every type of way. But most recently, we're absolutely delighted at the work that Blair's been leading around community-led regeneration in town centres. And last week, the leader and some officers accompanied down there to London, and we won the Visa Town Champion Award for Scotland, and they also brought home a cheque of 20 grand, which Joe McLaughlin and Julie are delighted about. So it wasn't just something for the trophy cabinet, there was some dosh in the bag coming up. But again, that's our innovative approach to try and invest in our town and village centres and tie that with community-led regeneration. It's pretty unique and it's been outstanding, particularly the way we've supported communities through COVID with the East Ayrshire card, etc. And then finally, and last but certainly by not least, David has brought together a new service around economic growth. But there's been amazing progress made there in terms of strategic underpin. Only last week we approved the regional economic strategy for Ayrshire, which has taken years to go over the line. So David can get the credit for pulling that one over. And it's not easy when you're working regionally, but I've got to say this is a tracking strategy. It's going to take us right into the future. But alongside that, the visitor economic strategy was also approved. So we're really in a strong strategic position to take things forward. But there's so much happening in this service in terms of supporting businesses through the most challenging of times, but the work around the Ayrshire Growth Deal and the really exciting projects. So for me, about regenerating our economies, the best thing we can do is help to provide good work for the people that we serve. And that's the work that David's leading. All very much focused on community wealth building and keeping that money local. And we've got a massive event coming up in the next couple of weeks that's going to showcase that right across Ayrshire. So I commend these papers to you. This is the belt and braces. This is the work that they do to achieve these strategic underpins. And I'll pass over to the services, I think, in order here. I don't know if they've got a play in order, but they seem to be sitting in order. So I think it would be economic growth first, Chair.
That's Katie. David?
Thanks, Chair. The report before you obviously highlights in the first section the work that Economic Growth Services has undertaken over the last period. So we've during that report highlights that we've undertaken obviously business continuity during the pandemic, both internally as a service and with the business sector. We've worked to develop the jobs and training projects along with colleagues and people and culture, and we've done that both within the service and for the business sector. And members will recall that we announced at the last cabinet about the 27 posts that we've currently created in the business sector, and we continue to work to develop more. We've also developed a multidisciplinary team to prepare for external funding for the Shared Prosperity Fund, Levelling Up Fund, Place-Based Investment Fund, along with Blair's team, the Regeneration Capital Growth Fund, and as Cabinet is aware of the various successes in these areas. As Katie has advised, that we've just concluded the work to get the Ayrshire Regional Economic Strategy over the line, and I was delighted to see that last month, and indeed that with the visitor economy, and obviously the visitor economy is there's a launch next week at down at the Carlton Hotel for that. So in terms of the overall work that we're doing in terms of the 6 work streams, aerospace and space, we are involved in that from we deal with the South Ayrshire Council and the several clusters. We've been down to Prestwick Airport to see this firsthand, and we're aligning that into areas such as the Shared Prosperity Fund, so that we can look at employability skills there. And obviously that aerospace is quite a significant
sector for East Ayrshire, because we supply more than 30% of the workforce that was within the cluster around Prestwick Airport. In terms of food and drink, we lead as a support service to the private sector, and the lead there is Alistair Dobson. So we've implemented a strategic action plan which aligns with Andrew Kennedy's team for the food production within the council. And also in terms of clean growth work stream, we've worked with University of West of Scotland, and we've developed the Ayrshire Energy Master Plan, are in the process of doing so, which is out with consultants now, and we'll be bringing that back for over the summer period. In terms of the Regional Skills Investment Plan, that was been developed over the period, and we're in the process of implementing the key findings of this, and looking at supporting the Regional Skills Investment Fund, which will finalise with both governments to provide additional bespoke training support for the sectors. University of West Scotland lead the digital work stream, and that has been worked at to develop a regional digital master plan, and again that will link back into our work for the actual council strategy and digital implementation. Katie mentioned community wealth building, and there's significant work there carried out with employability teams in NHS Salus, one for healthy economy, and that's been providing support for unemployed and employed individuals through bespoke offerings through the occupational health. We also mentioned we've delivered the LDP2 to the Scottish Government, so that will be considered over the next period. And in terms of the Ayrshire Growth Deal projects, we've got the 3 key projects are been moved on, and reports will be coming to Cabinet in due course, just to highlight progress with the partnership working with the Ayrshire College, UWS and University of Strathclyde. In terms of the core, we're just about to conclude missives at Muirfield, and with AMIC we're looking at finalising the site preparation for that area. So that kind of covers the work that we're carrying out today, and obviously second part of the report just says that how we should be moving forward. Last thing to say is, over the last year, the service review within economic development has been hampered with uncertainty over funding, in particular shared prosperity funding and no one left behind, both of which have been delayed in implementation by the respective governments. So once we hear the outcome of the no one left behind funding, we'll start to be able to move the service review forward. So moving forward, the action plan that is set out for the forthcoming year highlights the key business tasks for the service to deliver economic wellbeing and growth. So happy to answer any questions, Chair, either now or at the end. Thanks.
Thanks, David. Good report. I think, again, in terms of what we're doing with the Soil Association and local procurement of food producers, we're doing really well, particularly in-house. But, we know, speaking recently to some other people in the food industry, they're willing to look at procuring local produce and buy into that. What can we do to really encourage them to buy Ayrshire produce and emulate what we're doing as a council?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think one of the areas that we're looking to enhance is increased capacity for local businesses. Obviously, some businesses will buy the cheapest product out there. Other businesses will take on the mantra of community wealth building and buy locally. It's important that we can help support these local businesses to obviously reach their potential and increase their capacity locally, so that they can actually start to move up the procurement ladder and not only go for public sector contracts, but start to be achieving more in the kind of wider region.
I think it's something that would appeal to the consumer, and it's something we really want to encourage, and I think we're doing really well there to do that. Thanks for that, David. Anybody else, any points, questions? Graham?
Thanks, Lee. Actually, think it's great to see the £6 million jobs and training scheme progressing at pace. I mean, our young people have settled in well. They're already valuable contributions into the council and fresh ideas, and I look forward to them progressing through their training. I'm sure they'll be a valuable contribution to the council going forward.
No, absolutely. They're popping up everywhere. It's quite good to see, you know, now. It's really encouraging. Good. It's a piece of work. Anyone else? Okay, Andrew, you're next.
Thanks, Chair. I suppose that in terms of facilities and property management, is similar to all of the reports that they're set out, just in terms of areas that we're continuing to do, and some new action areas for this year. I think kind of the clear agenda that Katie kind of set out there, continued rollout of food expansion, and support across early years schools, community food, and a number of areas that David's already mentioned in terms of that wider economic growth support and links, are all areas that we've been working on over the last kind of 12 months, and will continue to develop over the coming couple of years, I think is probably the best way to put that. We obviously have achieved that sustainability award to recognise the good work that's been going on in the council, as you've mentioned, Leader. And I mean, some of that work goes back to 2005 within this council. But again, continuing to review that, consider what more we can do. We do have the Gold Food for Life standard as well, but recognising the challenges of jobs, training, and food inflation that we've seen, I think gives us other opportunities and other things that we need to consider, and those are all part of the development. We are providing over 2 million meals a year across the catering service, and again, we anticipate this year we'll see some further growth across that. We continue to support the capital programme across the service, and our overall property estate through the asset management framework, but again looking to support income generation, new sources of funding, and managing delivery of projects. And again, over the last 12 months we've seen some good progress in a number of those areas, with completion of Dean Castle and Netherthird Primary School, to name a couple. Again, as Katie mentioned, climate change action plan, which was developed last year, and again the excellent work that's been developed in a number of those work streams that we're starting to see some traction on, particularly around some of the work around schools and our young people, is really sort of starting to kind of get traction across all schools, which is excellent. But again, working with communities, businesses and staff as well to really sort of embed what we're trying to do and addressing climate change. And tonight the IESE Awards are on, and we do have a nomination in there for the climate change team and the work that we've been doing with young people. I suppose the last area, just in terms of the ongoing areas and actions from last year, is probably just some of those key organisational actions just around delivering the service plan to Cabinet, which was presented last month, and also just retaining our investors and people accreditation and continuing to develop our workforce planning, recognising that facilities and property management employ about 800 staff across all our communities in East Ayrshire. So in terms of moving a number of those themes forward, very much sort of building in the links to the strategic plan, particularly around tackling poverty and inequality, and also the climate change actions. As Katie mentioned, the Good Food Nation Bill is one of the key tasks that we'll be looking at for this year. Scottish Government will be developing an overall Good Food Nation plan, and each local authority or public body will have to produce their own plan. But I think that recognises some really strong work that's already happening in East Ayrshire, whether it's in terms of links to local procurement, whether it's links to wellbeing, or things like the community ladders and engaging with the community. Whole range of activities happening there that I think will really have a strong basis of what we develop as a Good Food Nation plan. Again, further opportunities around the catering service in terms of growth around free school meals, and also the commitment council made in terms of half-price meals for young people in primary 6, 7 and secondary school. And again, further opportunities in terms of the economic growth and links with local business. Again, we've started to develop some work around business-to-business support as well. So rather than just providing to services and kind of consumers, we're actually doing some business-to-business support. Again, to kind of link in with the strategy that David's already mentioned. We continue to review capital programme projects as well as deliver a whole range of projects over the coming year. And again, I'm bringing the property management plan to Cabinet in the next few weeks as well, which again will link some of those strategic priorities and some of the practical information around how we're investing and supporting the day-to-day operation of our buildings. I suppose probably one of the key areas for me going forward was the service plan that was agreed, our service review that was agreed a month ago through Cabinet. And again, we're looking to take forward the range of actions that are in that report around workforce, digital, food, place-based working, community wealth building and climate change. And finally, just sort of reviewing with all of the change and challenges we've got, reviewing some of that performance report and ensure members and council are updated on a regular basis. So again, happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Andrew. A lot of good work there taking place. Just maybe noting about the holiday hunger and the hunger in general with our young people. And I read a report at the weekend from Glasgow City about some of these school surveys that are going about, and the number of young people that are going to their beds hungry, starving. It's quite alarming. And if you see if there's anything like that, when we get some of the reports back, that's something we really need to absolutely prioritise. But it's a matter for government, in my opinion, to intervene as well. But have we got any kind of indications so far about issues within when we'll be reporting on some of these surveys?
So there was a number of surveys that have been undertaken, and as part of the review, particularly around secondary school support, we're looking at some of the detail. We will be coming back with a report to Cabinet on the proposals in detail around the half-price school meals, and as part of that report I was intending to bring a bit more detail just around the general kind of implications for school meals and some of the other things that we would be kind of looking to address. So happy to kind of include some further information around that.
No, that's great, and that's been a great idea, and that's a good intervention that we can do. I was really pleased to support that. Colleagues, any other points, any comments, questions? Nothing on. Okay, that's you. Over to David then. Thanks, Andrew. Over to David Dorn.
Thanks, Chair. Plan before you was one of transition, certainly for last year, for health and safety, insofar that we were coming out of the pandemic, and then we could begin to fully turn our attention to safety again, like inspecting and auditing workplaces, rather than the COVID safety planning that we've been doing predominantly the years before that. So there was a real change last year, and the plan for last year really reflects that, Chair. I think I've said in Cabinet before that there really is no substitute for having boots on the ground and just being out there looking at workplaces, looking at road sites, looking at construction projects, etc., and making sure that those standards are maintained, because that's how you build a strong safety culture. And as a council, we always seek to maintain those sensible, proportionate, achievable safety standards, and that will continue to be a golden thread, Chair, as we move or we transition from last year's plan into this year's plan. Plans ourselves just have the usual mix of ongoing work that we do, such as developing the council's health and safety and wellbeing policy, which I was working on yesterday, and our suite of 31 safety standards that underpin that policy, Chair. That's our Forth Road Bridge work. That's the stuff that we never ever finish. We're always working on it, and we'll continue to work on it. So this, along with inspecting and auditing and investigating accidents and incidents, will form the backbone of the team's day-to-day work. However, in last year's plan, we also carried over more wellbeing focused approaches as we adopted as a team during the pandemic, or that we adopted as a team during the pandemic. Just to pick out some highlights, Katie mentioned earlier on, Chair, and everybody's well aware in here, we had the defibrillator initiative. We also introduced innovative water safety training for schools at Loch Doon, and working alongside colleagues in facilities and property management, we launched our first allergy awareness policy and standards in schools. As we move into a new plan, we'll continue to focus on the Council's core health and safety priorities, some of which I've just outlined, but we will also continue to make progress in important work we've been doing around wellbeing, mental health and suicide prevention. Moving on, Chair, if I could just pick a couple of themes from this year's plan. We'll be working with colleagues in Vibrant Communities, Leisure Trust, Police and Fire to deliver water safety sessions to all Primary 6 and Primary 7 pupils as part of Danger Detectives to be held in Dean Castle over May. And we'll also be working with colleagues in the RNLI, Coast Guard, Fire and Police to organise further water safety courses at Loch Doon, which will be targeted at secondary school pupils in May and June. These sessions were really well received last year, and the feedback that we got for the schools who took part were excellent, Chair, and we're keen to build on that again this year. In terms of safety, we're carrying out targeted audits across services, and they'll be designed to look at specific safety topics such as management of lone working, noise and vibration, to name just a few. And the management of silica dust will be our key campaign theme for this year, Chair. According to HSE statistics, occupational lung disease accounts for approximately 12,000 deaths a year and 400,000 work days lost across the UK. So managing the risks of silica dust is going to be a key HSE theme, and always is a key HSE theme, and that will also be our theme for this year, and we'll be promoting that as we go through the year. So to close, Chair, continued focus will be on health as well as safety, and we'll continue to give both equal importance as we move into this new plan. Be happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, David. It's good to hear Katie mentioned earlier, been recognising some of the good work that you've been doing throughout the year, and mental health first aid and suicide first aid training. I think that's that's really encouraging to see so many of our staff take that up. And of course, I don't know when you run out of defibrillators, what we're going to do to see yourself and Councillor Ingham in the press handing out defibrillators all over East Ayrshire. It's been a kind of common feature recently. But Neil.
Thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, I don't think we'll get any danger of that. I think the way that we are able to use community benefits to ensure that we've got those defibrillators coming in. So there's unfortunately no chance you won't see me in the paper. But no, it's just to pass on congratulations again to David and the team for the work that they have done, and getting through to a finalist of the LGC Awards. It's well deserved.
Thanks very much, Neil. That's great news. And Jim?
Thanks, yeah. Just to echo the sentiments of gratitude, David, for the work that you're doing, especially around about the mental health and assist training. It's really encouraging, not just for staff, but rolling that out into the communities, and the participation for the wider community in some of the training sessions, I think, is vital. Just maybe a wee update on the DFibs. Do we know if any hours that's been out in the communities have been used? Hopefully no, but it'd be interesting to know if they've been used yet.
Sorry, through you, Chair. None we're aware of at this point in time, but as part of, if you like, the initiative that we'll put in place, that if they are used, then they would notify us that they had been used, because there's obviously batteries need to be changed, pads need to be changed, so the community group would need a bit of guidance in that. So as part of the handover and our initiative, they're asked to inform us. So if they ever are used, then you would be the first to know. I would let you know.
Thanks very much, David. Anyone else? No. Okay. Thanks, David, for that report. And final part of the report, housing communities, and Blair.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. The Housing and Community Service Improvement Plan identified 38 key actions related to the service that form the basis of this mid-term review. These actions address not only national but local priorities, recovery and renewal priorities, the outcomes of the Housing and Community Service redesign process, long-term service planning objectives, performance and service improvement goals, and mitigations to minimise any identified service risks. The action plan includes 6 actions identified to meet strategic priorities of the Council, 15 actions relating directly to the housing and HAS improvement, 12 actions relating to the Cleaner, Greener Environment Community Service improvements, and 5 in regards to improvements to our community-led regeneration approach. A vast amount of activity in relation to the actions contained within our service improvement plan has taken place since the summer of 21. Too many to mention, each one in detail, but I'll just cover just some of those highlights. Members, to remind you that the implementation and the outcomes of the Housing and Communities Transformational Service Redesign, with the final phase being approved by Cabinet in March 22. The good or excellent continued work rather of our neighbourhood coaches in terms of their addressing the underlying issues relating specifically to tenancy breakdowns, tenancy terminations, evictions and abandonments. And I'm pleased to note that in 2019, before the pandemic, our overall sustainability rate of our tenancies was at 80%. And for our most vulnerable households coming through our homelessness route, sat at just 66%. I'm pleased to note that in this last year, we've seen our overall tenancy sustainment raised to 89%. And importantly, the sustainability of our homeless households is at its highest ever at 87%. Moreover, members, before the pandemic, from the period of the 1st of April to the 31st of January 2020, there were 34 evictions and 129 abandonments in East Ayrshire. And for the same period last year, there were only 8 evictions and 64 abandonments. Significant improvements, but work still to be done. The support and assistance provided by our Universal Credit team is not only supporting the Council's cost of living response, but by providing advice to our tenants and residents, raising awareness of Universal Credit and its uptake, and they've been able to secure hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of additional monies to vulnerable families within our communities. We've just recently implemented the new Void Business Unit, which integrated housing allocations and the HAS repairs teams, and that will only further strengthen and improve our performance in void management and allocations. We've recently just implemented, after long await, is the optimisation of our domestic waste collection service, and that will bring efficiency savings of circa £200,000 per annum. These efficiencies will be realised with only a small number of our households impacted, around 2,500, all of which households have been contacted, are aware of the change, and that the operation of that new route will take place later this month. We've continued to develop the East Ayrshire gift card with local businesses and our communities, and we now have 224 businesses registered across the authority to accept the card, and we've been able to lock in £422,000 worth of money into our local economy. Looking forward, we've identified 33 new actions as part of this new mid-term review, and these actions are drawn, members, from the Council's strategic plan priorities, the Council budget, which was approved in February 2022, and East Ayrshire's self-assessment model exercise. So just some of the highlights would be that we're going to continue to develop high-quality new social housing, as well as investing significant amounts in our existing stock to ensure that all of our tenants have good quality, energy-efficient homes and within safe, healthy environment communities. We're establishing a tenant support fund for the first time. We're going to create additional resilience within our antisocial behaviour team to strengthen our approach across East Ayrshire. We're going to develop and launch our online housing application. We're going to manage our waste sustainably by reducing, reusing, recycling and recovering waste to improve our resource efficiency. We're going to introduce a pilot civic pride team to include a deep clean of our town centres and village main streets, which will include things like litter, gum and graffiti removal. We're going to develop a better pathway opportunities for both adult and modern apprentices, alongside work experience opportunities for our young folk who are currently working with SL33. And importantly, we're going to further develop our support for our older people across East Ayrshire. So we've got lots to deliver, but lots of positive things for the communities we serve, Chair. Thank you.
Very much, Blair. Good report. Any comments or questions there for Blair? Jim?
Thanks, Chair. Again, thanks Blair for the report. Some interesting stats in that report. I maybe ask for a wee bit more detail around about how we achieved that sustainability and increasing from 66 to 87 and the good work that's been done around about that. Working closely with the neighbourhood coaches over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I see the extensive work that they're doing and it's really appreciated and pass on my gratitude to them. Again, they mentioned tenant support scheme and the impact that will make on our town centres and wider than that, and into the wee towns and villages and about antisocial behaviour, and really encouraged to hear the amount of businesses now that's been taken up with the gift card scheme. I think it's important that our communities feel safe, and I think through some of the actions that Blair has pointed out, that goes a long way to maybe satisfying people in their communities that they should feel safe and will be safe with some of the introduction that's been made. But for me, that sustainability, Blair, and housing, what kind of work was done about that to achieve that, the extensive work?
Through you, Chair, it's multifaceted. There's lots to go in that. But what I would refer to as a rapid rehousing transition plan, which has been the fundamental driver for strategic improvements in terms of addressing homelessness and sustainability of those that experience homelessness. So things as our safest houses approach, which is a multi-agency approach across ourselves and predominantly health and social care, but also with our colleagues within vibrant communities. We've launched for the first time our Housing First programme, of which we have our individuals who have the most significant support packages within East Ayrshire to bring them in, give them a house, wraparound support in small numbers to increase sustainability. We've got great collaboration across our council. We took a decision at the outset of rapid rehousing, one of only a couple of local authorities in Scotland, to have contribution statements from key community planning partners to help us achieve this aspiration of improving sustainability for our homeless households, and that's played a significant role. It would be remiss of me not to mention the role of our housing support staff based within vibrant communities and the very much housing support and independent role that they play to work with vulnerable individuals, which also helps the sustainability in our communities. You'll note through our service redesign, we also took a decision to increase the number of neighbourhood coaches that we have, to reduce patch sizes, to give officers more times to get behind doors, to have caring conversations. And that caring conversation doesn't stop with neighbourhood coaches. I now have all of our trades operatives doing the same. We also introduced Our Street Forum to identify any vulnerabilities or concerns, whether it be a gas engineer, a plumber, or one of our waste operatives in our communities. We still continue to respond positively to reports through our street forums, which links directly to health and social care, things such as adult and child support concern referrals as well. So a whole range of factors has achieved this success. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Blair. I would expect a detailed answer, but thank you very much. I think that just highlights the amount of work that goes behind that statistic. So thanks very much for that. Thank you.
Elaine?
Thank you, Chair. It's actually some comments on all of the 3 papers that we've had. I have to confess, when the papers were delivered to me on Friday and I saw it was 168 pages, my heart did sink, just based on the other committees I knew I had this week and external evening.
A programme designed to engage with individuals who experience barriers to employment, education and training, and those that are unemployed, on low incomes, ex-offenders and those experience mental health or wellbeing issues. So at the conclusion of that project, they had exceeded their initial outcome targets. Some of those targets had moved slightly because of the, again, contextual and external influences on the work that they were doing, but really positive outcomes, all of which aligned with the aims that they initially set out with. The Community Reuse Hub and the new Covenant Development Trust project was established to operate a viable social enterprise that developed skills and creates sustainable jobs, but is also a welcoming space for the community. That evolved into really phase 1 of what is now a 2-phase project, and members will be familiar with phase 2 having been reported to Cabinet recently through the RCGF funding that they have now received to regenerate the Trotters building. So phase 1 allowed them to develop that proposal in quite some detail. The CRF funding, however, for that project was underspent, and I think that was a reflection on timing more than anything else.
They also had some difficulties in negotiating the lease for the accommodation that they have at the railway station in Newcomnut. But again, even with that reduced spending profile, they still achieved the aims that they set out and actually exceeded some of them as well. The third project, all in East Ayrshire, that is the consortium led project with Enable providing the lead on that. That was an innovative supported employment pilot project delivered through Enable Scotland. It offered a comprehensive end-to-end employment service utilising both one-to-one intervention services and group work. Again, and although they didn't meet all of 100% of the targets, they did produce quite a significant positive progress, and we've captured that at paragraphs 44 and 45. And also, as I said, there are extracts from that evaluation included there as well. And then the last project was Leisure at the Heart of Every Community from the Leisure Trust. And this really did go well beyond the initial targets that they had set. So this was a project really developed around 4 mobile units. And the festival bus, branching out bus, digital communities bus, and the activity on the go bus were really successful. And you'll see from the table at paragraph 50 just where they did exceed significantly those initial targets. And I know Annika and her team are now mainstreaming some of that activity into their core programmes now. Chair, it's been a very challenging project to oversee and monitor and evaluate, but you can see from the outcomes that the projects have delivered that it was worthwhile and well used, very good use of that community renewal funding. Thanks, Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much, Ian. Lot of good work going on in there, right across East Ayrshire. Any comments, questions? Lynn?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Ian who provided me with some supplementary information about some of the figures in the report. So I know he covered it in his opening remarks there, but I just want to again draw people's attention to paragraphs 44 and also the table at point 50. Significant outcomes there, and I know the Enable were presented as percentages. 89% and 92% of people either gaining a qualification or employment. The actual numbers, though, that Ian provided me was people supported to gain a qualification was 125, and people supported to gain employment through the Enable programmes was 55. And these are excellent results, but also the table on 50 from the East Ayrshire Leisure at the Heart of their Communities. Some of the stuff there is just outstanding, and I feel we've maybe got a case study here to definitely, well, as Ian already mentioned, Annika's looking at mainstreaming it, so I think I'm really looking forward to seeing how we're going to actually implement that and continue the learnings from this programme.
I would agree 100% with that. There's some really good innovative work going on there. Ian? Anything else? Okay, thanks for that. I don't know if you want to comment any further, Ian.
Thanks, Chair. I would perhaps, and as part of the UK Government's evaluation of the overall project, they will be looking at those projects that had really exceeded their initial targets, and we expect, although there's no confirmation of it, but we expect there will be some particular interest in the Leisure Trust project, just because of the points you make, Councillor Cowan. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Ian. Okay, can we, if there's no points, can we go straight to recommendations? Can we agree? Paragraph 2. Okay, thanks very much for that. Thanks, Ian. And we now go to Sports Scotland Investment Continuation and Kevin.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to bring this paper in front of members. It is certainly a positive news story attached with future investment. Chair, the report in front of you is to provide an update on the success of active schools in East Ayrshire and ask members to consider continued council investment in the programme to progress this programme and community sports hubs. In the report, in terms of paragraphs 3 to 10, gives background to this initiative, which stems back to 2005 and a partnership approach between Sport Scotland and the council. It has been extremely successful over the years in terms of using sport as a tool to engage young people in terms of participation in sport and physical activity. The service has been housed within Vibrant Communities since 2013 and has grown from strength to strength in terms of its work around about early intervention and prevention work. Members, in terms of paragraphs 11 to 49, there is a string of key progress and highlights of the team progressed over the last 4-year investment period. I would like to highlight in paragraphs 13 that through that investment period, there's been a total of 436,603 attendances at active schools activity sessions by children and young people here in East Ayrshire. In paragraph 14, it highlights that there's been over 1,000 female-only sessions, a particular target group that we try to encourage in terms of increased participation in sport and physical activity. And that has, over the last 4 years, equated to 149,566 participation attendances. I would also like to highlight in paragraph 16 the Community Sports Hub clubs and active schools, as well as active schools coordinators, organised the inaugural Shankly football tournament in 2022. As we were coming out of the COVID pandemic, this working alongside Liverpool Football Club, in particular the youth football teams, and that real asset that we have in the south of our authority in terms of that Bill Shankly Memorial. I would also like to highlight the work that our active schools team have done around about that holiday food provision throughout the authority in that dignified way in which we co-deliver food for our children and young people alongside really positive activity around about sport and other activities. I would also like to just pay tribute to the team, linked to paragraphs 22 and 26 and the role that they played through the COVID response in terms of providing support to our children and young people and families in terms of the response that the council and our communities did to COVID, but also the support that our active school staff gave to our education colleagues in terms of some of the provision through that really challenging period. And the figures there within that section of the report is very clear to see the difference that they made. In terms of paragraphs 27 to 32, highlights the work this particular team does around about leadership and volunteer recruitment. And we recognise that there has been a dip as a result of COVID. However, you will see that the figures are showing that those volunteer figures are starting to bounce back to the pre-pandemic level. I would maybe also draw attention to paragraphs 37 in terms of the work around about our community sports hubs and the positive impact that that is having on hub members, those local coaches, athletes and sports organisations. And in fact, over 4,500 athletes are members of community sports hub clubs, of which receive that support from this particular team. Members, within paragraphs 38 to 49, highlight some of the work that is coming up through active schools around about the Future Development and Investment Programme linked to the Sport Scotland's EDI investment, so that's Equalities, Diversity and Inclusion monies as part of the programme of government. And we do have some applications ready to go when that fund reopens as part of that funding stream, and some significant plans in place so that we're prepared to enhance further the work of active schools. Members, if I can just highlight in terms of that policy and planning agenda, the work of this particular team has direct connections to our wellbeing delivery plan, our economies and skills and safer communities. It also impacts positively our work around about Ayrshire Healthy Weight Strategy, just to name a few, but actually the really strong partnership with some of our community planning partners, including Ayrshire College, is second to none. There's no legal implications from this report, members. In paragraphs 56 to 58 outlines the human resource implications, and this investment for the future year will retain those staff and for that further year. There's no equalities impact as a result of the report, and the financial implications are outlined between paragraphs 60 to 64, with the table in paragraph 62 indicating the investment profile that Sport Scotland have confirmed with us alongside the council investment. Sport Scotland's investment will include a 3.5% uplift for 2023-24. Members, in terms of this report, it is linked to our corporate plan, our transformation strategy and our community planning objectives. There is no direct implications for net zero, but we've also recognised that there is scope for work of this team to support active travel in terms of that participation in physical well-being. There is potential for us to connect in through the local sports organisations in terms of community wealth building and how we help to keep the investment local and support local suppliers, and the team will continue to provide advice, guidance and support around about that. Members, I would also like to highlight, just in terms of the background papers, there is a link there to the 4 years highlight that gives absolutely amazing background information around the activity of this team, some case studies, as well as the phenomenal impact that the team has had. Members, if I can recommend to you in terms of the recommendations in paragraph 2 regarding this report. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kevin. It's an excellent report. It's really encouraging. Some of the numbers, it's nearly 500,000 young people involved with active schools, and some of the work that we're doing with community sports hubs and talented athlete programs, really good. With envy of other local authorities. Members, any comments or questions? Jim.
Thanks, yeah. Thanks, Kevin, for the paper, and some fantastic stats in there again. Particularly myself, like to pay tribute, and we had them in here. Just recently has come at Juniors Enterprise Trust, and the amount of work they're doing, delivering their services in the South Authority, and the impact that has not just on their physical well-being, but also their mental well-being as well. I was at the Shankly tournament. It was an absolute roaring success, and I dare say Bill will be looking down with a big smile on his face at the result at the weekend there as well. So it was an absolutely fantastic tournament, and glad to see that that's been shown on Liverpool TV as well. I'm hoping that's going to continue as we go forward with that. But thanks very much for that, Kevin.
Thanks very much, Jim. Anyone else? Okay, thanks for the report. Excellent report. Can we go to recommendation? Paragraph 2, can we agree recommendations? Yeah, thanks, I've read it. And item 6 now is the Coalfield Communities Landscape Partnership Lost Villages project. Karen,
Chair, could I just come in first of all on the back of the declarations of interest? Where it's a council appointment, Councillor Filson, you don't need to leave unless you feel you have a personal interest in any of the projects, which I think, okay, that's fine. Councillor McMahon, I think you're okay to stay. Yep, that's great, thank you.
Okay, over to you, Karen.
Thanks, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek approval to offer an extension to the existing contract with the University of Strathclyde to deliver the Coalfield Communities Landscape Partnership Lost Villages Oral History project. The Landscape Partnership formally started delivering its projects in late 2020 after permission to start was granted by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. The Lost Villages Oral History is one of the 22 projects being delivered by the CCLP, and the aim of the project is to capture the intangible history of life in the Roe villages in the Doon and Lugar valleys. The Oral History project involves local school pupils and other groups in the process of capturing the experiences of those who grew up in the historic villages, allowing them to develop skills in the use of audio-visual technology and interviewing. The project records the memories of older generations, which is a vital piece of our social history and to understanding and stimulating sense of place. The Council commissioned the University of Strathclyde to deliver the Lost Villages project, and work started in spring 21. The project at that point was intended to run for 2 years, but like most things that we've been delivering around that time, the Lost Villages project was adversely affected by COVID-19 over 2021 and 2022. And paragraph 10 details further in what ways the project was affected by the pandemic. Paragraph 11 sets out that to date the project has achieved many of its proposed outputs, and highlights include community events and memory booths at Dumellington and Logan, the discovery of important lost oral history interviews that were conducted in the 1980s and the 1990s. As per paragraph 12, the project was successful in attracting some further match funding of just over £1,500 from the Year of Stories and £5,000 from an internal funding bid at the University of Strathclyde for storytelling events aimed at recovery groups. Paragraph 13 sets out the outstanding milestones we've yet to achieve. Moving to the finances in paragraphs 15 and 16, paragraph 15 sets out how the original project was financed and notes that council monies previously allocated to the Coalfield Communities Landscape Partnership have not been used specifically on this project. It also notes the outputs and outcomes that have been over and above those originally set out, partly due to us finding new ways to continue the project during the pandemic. Paragraph 16, the financial cost of the remaining works is just under £40,000 and will be met by the National Lottery Heritage Fund grant at 39%, other CCLP funds at 45%, which are as a result of other project underspends, and a 16% in-kind contribution from the university. And some of the remaining work relates to new or improved outcomes as well as fulfilling the remaining outputs, so there'll be more happening for the additional money. So subject to the approval of the recommendations, the project team will work with procurement officers to issue an extension to the contract, and this will detail the work required to complete the project, and that will expire in September this year. We will be looking to bring Cabinet a further report on the CCLP just to let you know all the great stuff that's been happening across the project over the last couple of years. And there is a possibility with this project that we will look to deliver a further legacy project in terms of oral history, and we're currently discussing that. So a lot of the work we're doing at the moment in the project is about looking at the legacy that this landscape partnership will leave. Paragraph 19 to 26 set out the implications. I don't think there's any there that I need to go into discussing, but you can let me know if you feel otherwise. And back at paragraph 2, you can see the 2 recommendations, and namely that the 6 months extension to the contract is approved. I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Karen. I find this subject really, really interesting. You see a lot of the, about the Highland clearances and the black houses, and but within the industrial heritage, it's only 100 years or so ago, and we've got a rich history there here in Ayrshire that tells a unique story, and anything we can do to just get that as part of our culture, part of our heritage, and it's something we really need to do to make something of it. And I think you've done I think Drew's done a great job in terms of that, and others in the community, just to get that message across. I'd love to see some kind of presentation on it, if that's possible. It's really quite fascinating. Elaine?
Thank you, Chair. I'd agree with all those comments. The clues in the title for me, Lost Villages, oral history project. So if we don't do it now, it will be lost for future generations. And I don't think we should underestimate the importance of projects like this for the cohesion in the communities and the collective well-being. So I'm fully supportive of this recommendation here to extend the project.
Thanks very much, Elaine. Neil?
Yeah, I'll just echo that. I think, given the fact that it's oral history at the moment, that will soon be lost to us. That we might not have people who actually remember or can hark back to those times. So I just wondered if there's any sort of thinking on making it maybe a museum or a piece where we can draw people in, tourism wise, or further learning for schools, or just along that sort of line.
I think some of the physical work they've done up in Glenbox, particularly that I've seen, but I'd be quite, real interested to see what's happened elsewhere, and if we can do some with our schools, I think that's really, that's a great suggestion. Cam?
Yeah, we have been working with the schools, and in terms of, like, say, there's a website, and I think that'll have kind of recordings and stuff on it. But yeah, I mean, you can certainly look at what else we could be doing in terms of physically bringing that into the place, and how we might be able to sort of extend the output so that when you're, wandering around, you can actually connect into the project on the ground.
Anyone else? Jim, sorry. Jim.
If I can just echo the sentiments having has been said round about oral history, I think some of the language that might disappear, and I think it's important to keep the old Scottish words in there when we talk about sculleries and whatnot. Folk maybe not recall what they was, maybe some of the young ones might not even ken that, but it's important. I mean, I stayed in a wee village that didn't disappear, it was near away, it was Cronbury. What was left of there, the 7 blocks it was left of, what was a thriving community at one time, but we see been what done corner Rodham, I'm going. I mean, that was the sign of the times when there was mines there, and the mines disappeared and they closed, so the villages went with them. So it's vital, I think, that we record that history for generations to come, and I like the idea of probably a wee museum there somewhere.
Thanks, Jim. David?
No, it was just taking a Chair. We did quite a bit of work with, as you are aware, with the residents of Glenbuck, but we took that wider with SMRT. So we'll be linking in the Scottish Mines Restoration Trust work that they've done into this, and we've also linked them up with Cumnock Juniors for some of the discussions that some of the patrons of the maturer age that play that walking football may have. Also some really good stories to tell. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Anyone else? Okay, can we again go to recommendations on page 88, paragraph 2? Can we agree recommendations? Okay, thanks for that. Also, I better get Drew back. Done. It's not, was it non-pecuniary?
No, we need to get David just to clarify, because it's different now.
Was it? Step aside that. Keep this. No, but seek advice with David, just a second, in terms of my Kilmarnock Football Club interim.
As a shareholder of the club, then, I mean, at the end of the day, we're simply managing the traffic around the club. I'm not sure it's so significant it needs to be registered, but I didn't catch the beginning.
I just when I saw it first, I just, because I'm a shareholder, and it was in relation to Rugby Park, I'm previously in the past.
As you know, Chair, compliance with the code is always the responsibility of the individual member, and it's often better to over-declare than under-declare. We're into the minutiae of whether, as a shareholder, there's any direct benefit or disbenefit to the club that would cause you, as a shareholder, to take the view that your interest was significant. As you know, that's the test. The alternative, if you feel it's not so significant to cause you withdraw, having applied the test, would be for take the openness and transparency option, which is to register it as an interest, but not of such significance that you would need to withdraw.
I'll just do that now. Okay. Okay, so
I wonder if I need to declare that I live in that area, and as such it would directly impact my ability to get to my house. Again, I'll be led with advice.
David?
The test is whether or not the interest would cause the average person to form the view, it could be significant. Unfortunately, the test can't be applied retrospectively because at a logical level, everybody understands that how a member votes that might have an interest will determine whether or not there's any issue in terms of the code. But you can't make the test, well, how do you intend to vote? So given that you have on paper proposed restrictions, which the member has clearly advised could impact him negatively as a resident, then that could be deemed to be sufficiently significant. As I say, and it's a decision that needs to be taken prior to determination of the issue. Point I'm trying to make is that if someone in that position is not actually opposing it, is happy to agree the restrictions, then there's no actual conflict. But the test isn't how do you intend to vote. The test is, might the man in the street believe that living nearby and being affected by these restrictions is sufficient to take a councillor who's a resident out the picture. And if the member himself is so satisfied, then he would wish to withdraw.
I think on that, I don't live in any of the streets that are actually impacted by the order. However, given the fact that I do live in proximity and I'm currently affected by the traffic on match days, I will withdraw until the end of this agenda point.
I think through you, Chair, just to support that, I think where it has either the potential to see adversely or positively impact, because of course we don't quite know which way it will work. When you bring restrictions in, it can have a displacement effect. So I think the members fairly summarised the nature of the interest, and I think at this stage, not being able and not required to show a hand, I think you might be better, given your residency interest, just to withdraw from this one and be seen to do so.
Okay, over to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. The purpose of this report is to advise Cabinet of the maintained objections to a proposed traffic regulation order for new parking restrictions in the vicinity of Rugby Park, Kilmarnock, and to present officer recommendations. On the 16th of March 2022, Cabinet agreed to remit the Head of Roads to commence the statutory process for implementing a new traffic regulation order to address the road safety concerns created by matchday parking at Rugby Park, Kilmarnock. The consultation process is detailed in paragraph 7 to paragraph 20. Following an open dialogue, officers have been unable to fully mitigate 3 objections, and these are detailed in paragraph 11. These proposals have been carefully considered following an extensive public engagement exercise and have been refined as necessary. Kilmarnock Football Club safety officers have also been fully consulted throughout the process. ARA officers consider these proposals are proportionate and will help address long-standing parking issues within the Rugby Park catchment area. Whilst not required by legislation, Cabinet could refer these objections to a hearing where an independent reporter appointed by Scottish Government would chair the hearing and make recommendations for consideration at a future Cabinet meeting. Cabinet could uphold the objections and instruct officers to remove proposals for part-time matchday restrictions within Third Park Place and Rugby Road, or Cabinet could uphold the objections and instruct officers to reconsider the scheme as a whole. The recommendations are contained in paragraph 2. Thank you, Chair.
So much, Kevin. Any questions or comments? Morning. Councillor Mackay, morning. We're not here. We're not here. Yeah, Councillor Mackay's got her hand up. I've asked her to come in. Yeah, I'll maybe go to Ian Linton, then I'll come back and try and see if we can make sure that Councillor Mackay wants to go in. Ian?
Thanks, Dougie, and thanks for the report. I mean, I think considering what was originally proposed, we've listened to a lot of the concerns expressed by the local residents who, you know, it's a densely populated part of Kilmarnock, this, and obviously we need to take into account their concerns. I think ARA have been, you know, they've addressed the key issues, which for me were round about the junctions in this report, and I think, you know, what was originally proposed has been diluted to such an extent that, you know, I'm comfortable supporting the report. I'm open to suggestions in which of the three roads we could, sorry, no pun intended, which of the three choices we make in regards to the outstanding objections, but I'll listen to the debate as it progresses.
Thanks, Ian. Maureen, can you hear us?
Hello.
That's it.
You hear
Hi,
me now?
Maureen.
I'm sorry about that. Thanks very much. I think Ara have done, I would agree with Ian, certainly a very good job. However, I still think that there are some residents who unfortunately are being impacted. And what I would hope is that there were some people who, through no fault of their own, it just happens to be exactly what their property is, have no access to on-street parking or off-street parking on those particular days, so are very much in the situation that their only option is to be on street, and I think that is in some way discriminating against them. What I'm hoping is that there can be an opportunity that if contact was directly made, then that there were mitigations made for these people specifically and their specific vehicles. I understand match days are not many across the year, but I think that would make a huge difference, and I wonder if Kevin could comment on that, and also if there would be support for that.
That's Maureen. Kevin? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of residents who stay around Rugby Park, etc., if they had a specific reason, i.e. a medical issue or something like that, if they wrote to myself or officers within ARA, we would look at each case on its merit and come up with some kind of decision on how the regulation could be applied. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. I mean, that seems reasonable if we could, a reasonable request to look at, you know, each case in their merit if there's particular individual medical or other reasons, similar reasons. Maureen, do you want back in?
I was hoping for a bit more than a very specific medical reason. I mean, unfortunately, circumstances can literally change that people can't quite anticipate all this in advance. I was hoping that there could be a bit more flexibility with that.
Thanks, Kevin.
Through you, Chair, we would consider any reason that was put forward to consider a relaxation for that particular vehicle. It could be that the vehicle's not fit to go on the road or something like that, you know, so we would have to look at that, you know. So, but we would consider any request from any resident around Rugby Park. Thank you, Chair.
I think that's, you know, if we can look at each case in its merit, you know, sympathetically, if they have got reasonable reasons for wanting their vehicle to remain, I think that's, I would support that. Maureen?
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think I could ask for more than that reasonably. Could that get built into the recommendations in some way?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Kevin, can we splice that into the recommendations?
Yes, I can do that, Chair.
Anyone else? Okay with that, just addition to recommendation, can we agree to recommendations? Thanks. Let's see if we get Neil. Ian, is that a lazy hand? Says.
So, sorry, Dougie, it must be me, I'm not picking up, but I thought...
Okay, you're right with that, Ian?
I think it's a good report, but I mean, I just wonder, in the interest of running it to absolute exhaustion, that the consideration might have been given to getting an independent review, just to see if we could take these remaining objectives with us. You know, I don't think there's anything else we could do beyond that. But I'm happy with the report as it is.
Okay, we've kind of agreed the recommendations. Just Maureen.
Sorry, Ian. I had hoped that the comment
stated in Table 5. In 22-23, challenges were experienced in terms of inflationary pressures, resulting in a suspension of the roads resurfacing programme, and as part of the reprofiling, it is proposed to meet the overspend and resurfacing for 22-23 from the reprofiled capital allocation. Significant price increases were received during the tendering process for materials in the proposed removal of abnormal materials at Browns Road, New Millens, and it is proposed that the additional £220,000 be met from the reprofiled capital allocation. The multi-storey Cabinet report of June 2021, which approved the demolition, advised that demolition of the car park plus the construction of new surface level car parks at Sturrock Street, Grange Street and London Road was estimated in the region of £2.544 million and would be met from the existing £3.165 million approved allocation. The spend to date is £120,000, and this does not include for the relocation of the Samaritans at £195,000 or purchase of a shop unit at £75,000, which are approved but not yet concluded. The revised estimate, taking into account rising costs for demolition and the new surface car parks, is in the region of £4.3 million, and it is proposed to reprofile the in-year roads asset capital programme to take into account the shortfall. The current projected shortfall in the council funding for new Cumnock flood defences is estimated at £646,000, and this is considered to be a robust estimate based on the information available. However, there is potential for further costs to be sought by the contractor, and Cabinet has previously approved that this shortfall will be met from reallocation of current budget allocations within the overall Bridges capital programme. For 23-24, Ayrshire Roads Alliance has submitted bids to the Scottish Timber Transport for the A713 partner, Main Street to Doonbank Nursing Home, the A70 west of Muirkirk, west of B743 Sawn Junction, the A70 west of Ochiltree at the access road to Finlayson Farm, and the A70 Lugar Craigston Home to East Gateway at the end of the village in East Ayrshire. On the 15th of December, 2022, Council approved a refreshed strategic vision and plan for Kilmarnock until 2027, establishing a multi-partner strategic group to oversee connectivity of investment and interventions across the town and to lead delivery of actions for early success in priority areas. Repurposing the multi-storey car park site following demolition into an EV charging and cycling hub with multi-purpose civic space, and programme progress and learning will be reported through council management team and the strategic group to Cabinet in autumn, winter 2023 and thereafter on an annual basis. There are over 20,000 streetlights in East Ayrshire, with over a third of these, 35.3%, over 30 years old, and the service life of modern galvanised steel lighting columns. This figure is expected to reduce to around 32% in completion of renewal works funded by the LED replacement budget in autumn 2023, but on return to normal funding levels will begin to increase by 2026, and this is detailed in Year 4 in Table 6. The proposed programme for 23-24 has identified parts of the network in the poorest condition, and this work will enable the further reduction in the number of concrete columns, along with the removal of unreliable Scottish power cable networks. As in previous years, LED replacement lighting has been used in all locations, which will reduce the power consumed on a per replaced unit basis by around 60%. Work is programmed for completion in the autumn of 23, and the lighting capital programme is contained within Appendix 2. Bridges and culverts are subject to assessment to determine their ability to carry the 40-tonne assessment loading. In addition, all structures are subject to a programme of regular inspections to determine their condition and highlight any defects requiring attention. The inspections provide the information needed for the preparation of programmes of remedial action. A programme of interim measures has been implemented to manage structures that have been identified as weak or require an upgrade and include weight restrictions, lane restrictions and/or regular monitoring. Currently, there are 55 bridges that have been monitored on a 2-monthly basis and 7 on a monthly basis. This list of special inspections varies as repairs are expedited. Such measures will continue to be put in place until improvement works are brought forward as part of the prioritised programme of bridge and culvert strengthening. General inspections are carried out over a 2-year cycle, and all structures listed in Table 7 receive a GI, and this also includes those structures in Table 8 which are roads pass over or under but which are not maintained by the Ayrshire Roads Alliance, including Network Rail and other boundary bridges. This programme of inspections has been completed for 22-23. Principal inspections are carried out every 6 years, and this provides information on the physical condition of all parts of the bridges that require to be inspected within touching distance. This inspection is more comprehensive and provides more detailed information than a general inspection, and these inspections may require suitable inspection access techniques to be employed. The full principal inspection programme was undertaken in 2018-19 by a consultant, and as such all principal inspections are currently up to date. It was proposed to recommence the 6-year principal inspection programme in 23-24 using a combination of in-house staff and consultants funded via the Bridges Capital Programme. The currently approved Bridges Capital budget for the next financial year 23-24 is £3.5 million as identified in Table 4. As identified at paragraph 8 in Table 5, it is however proposed to reprofile the overall roads budget utilising the estimated 3.897 Bridges Capital carry forward. The reprofiled Bridges Capital allocation for 2023 taking account of new monies and part carry forward monies is 4.1 as shown in Table 5. Appendix 3 contains details of the Bridges Capital Programme, which comprises 63 projects and how they relate to the 4.1 million funding identified in Table 5, and some of these projects are carrying forward from previous years and some are new projects. In terms of our traffic and transportation, the proposed delivery programmes contained within this report will be implemented through funding provided by the Council, SPT, Transport Scotland and Sustrans, and the programme will deliver a range of projects to improve road safety, enhance the transport network and promote accessible travel choices. The proposed programmes are consistent with national, regional and local transport strategies and policies. Table 11 demonstrates there has been a downward trend in road casualties since 2004. There was a total of 117 casualties in 2022 compared with 102 in 21 and 122 in 2020. There has been a marked reduction in the slightly injured category over the last 3 years, which is in part likely to be due to a change in policy by Police Scotland, whereby road accidents in which there are only very minor injuries may not be recorded in the official road accident statistics. The impact of reduced traffic volumes during 2021 due to COVID restrictions may have contributed to a further reduction, and the Department for Transport estimates that motor traffic volume dropped by 23% in Scotland in 2020 compared with the previous year. Table 11 clearly indicates a downward trend for all casualty severities. However, the trend for killed and seriously injured is less marked. Child casualty trends are shown in Table 12, although there has been no child fatalities in East Ayrshire since 1995, and the overall casualty trend is downwards. There continues to be a significant number of child casualties. The Department of Transport estimates the values assigned to the cost of road casualties for the use and cost-benefit analysis of the prevention of road casualties in road schemes. The valuations are based on a willingness to pay human cost approach intended to encompass all aspects of the cost of casualties, including both the human cost and the direct economic cost. Table 14 shows that the cost to society of injury road accidents in East Ayrshire in 2022 was £22.5 million, and the funding of the traffic and transportation and road safety programmes are provided from the following resources: East Ayrshire Roads and Transportation Capital Investment Programme, SPT, Sustrans, Transport Scotland and Transport Scotland Smarter Choices, Smarter Places. The proposed programme for 23-24 is set out in Appendix 4, and the road safety programme has been prepared based on a combination of analysis from the annual accident review and locations of concerns raised by Police Scotland, elected members, the public and Ayrshire Roads Alliance officers. Priority in the programme will be given to evidence-led schemes arising from the annual accident and review. Scheme costs for proportionate mitigation schemes at each location will only be known once more detailed analysis has been taken. In terms of our fleet, ARA Transport continued to operate and maintain the current fleet in 22-23 with significant changes made to the operational procedures, which has improved vehicle turnaround. EV charging grant funding was also received for 22-23 to install depot chargers. In 23-24, ARA Transport priorities will be continue to decarbonise, conclude the EV charging strategy, pool cars, municipal buses and school transport, with papers to be brought forward early in the new financial year, and include further changes within the operational area to improve service delivery. Ayrshire Roads Alliance are working in partnership with Scottish Futures Trust and North Ayrshire Council, with 180,000 grant funding awarded across the three Ayrshires to develop a business case for future EV charging, funding private infrastructure across the three Ayrshires. This work has been concluded and a report will be presented to all three councils for approval, with ARA taking the lead. ARA Transport have set a target to have all cars and small vans replaced by the end of 2023, and this is unlikely to be achieved due to the availability of vehicles, and it is likely to roll into the next financial year. At present, there are 52 fossil fuel vehicles remaining. On completion of the 23-24 target, the focus will move to include both the remaining smaller vehicles and the larger vehicles up to 3.5 tonnes. And these larger vehicles are not straightforward, as there are still limitations with technology that may not be overcome by 23-24. Current estimates are that electric cars and small vans may reach price parity with internal combustion engine vehicles by 2025. If so, this will allow a focus from this year on the remaining vehicles up to 3.5 tonnes. To achieve the complete changeover across 3 years, there would have to be a reduction in the cost of these vehicles and an improvement in load capacity, range and charging infrastructure within our depots. If this was in place, allocating the funding over 3 years, ARA Transport would target replacing the remaining vehicles up to 3.5 tonnes. If required, this project could be extended to a 4th year. To further enhance the utilisation and effectiveness of the fleet, a business case has been drafted for the implementation of a new vehicle management system that would enhance the management of our fleet to support the climate change agenda, and the estimated cost is £35,460 with an annual charge of £11,995 against an upgrade of the current system of approximately £50,000. The recommendations are contained in paragraph 2. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Just got a couple of issues myself. Just maybe want to raise one, just a small local one, but a bigger one in terms of the bridge programme. Obviously, you're concerned that there has been that wee bit slippage there, but and new members might not be aware there was issues raised at the previous council in terms of the inspection regime with bridges, and I know you referenced to it, Kim, but just to have absolute assurances that there'll continue to be thorough inspection programmes, and if there are any issues that will be addressed in terms of we'll have a complete eye on safety, and that will be maintained, just to get some kind of assurance on that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can assure that the bridges will be fully inspected, general inspections and principal inspections, and the resources will be put against that. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Kevin. And just a couple of minor ones, just a wee local one from me. I know that the Knockin Timber Action Group been writing to ARA about the safety of just the main road that goes through Knockin Timber. Particularly, there's been some new build houses right there in the centre, and I thought it might be included in a future scheme, but as long as I can, I know there's going to be a meeting later on this week, that it will be considered. I don't know if there's any developer contribution money or anything that's lying about, but I think it's something that if we could really address that, I think there is an issue there. Just look for, I don't normally ask for wee local issues, but if you could have a look at that one for me, Kevin.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'll take that with officers. I have seen some correspondence coming in. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Kevin. And finally, just in terms of the budget, we did earmark a wee sum of money to deal with pavements and roads in some of the scheme areas. Just when will we have a report on that?
Through you, Chair, I have asked officers to consider the footways and come up with a list of the worst ones that we have across all our residential areas, either social rented or private. We will then look at these in terms of our scoring matrix, and is it a route to a school, is it in a commercial area, etc. And we'll put a score against them, and I'll prepare a report and bring that back to Cabinet. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, anyone else? Graham?
Thanks for the report, Kevin. You've no idea how delighted I am to see Meadowside and Kruger Road included in the list for resurfacing for 23-24. I'm sure that will make the residents of Kruger Home extremely happy. There's two roads that are in desperate need of resurfacing. But as you know, Kruger Road's the main road into Kruger Home, and it suffers from parking issues, and it basically puts about 600 metre part of the road down to single traffic. I know there's been work ongoing to get looking at widening the road, and I appreciate sight of that, Kevin, but I'd just like to urge that we put haste into this and get this the main artery into Crooked Home fixed for the residents there.
Thanks very much, Kevin.
Through you, Chair, yes, there is a scheme to put a parking lay-by along Kruger Road that would take, I think it's up to 14 vehicles. We do need to carry out a consultation process. There's also a pedestrian crossing to go in there as well. So as part of the resurfacing works of the carriageway, we will put in all the ducting and equipment required for the crossing point, and we will continue with that project to put in the vehicle parking lay-by.
Thanks for that, Kevin. I'm sure the toast could go home once you get that sorted.
Thanks for that. Eddie?
Thanks. I suppose it's a similar question to give to Eric, previously, but workforce have been out with you to a couple of the depots and about recruitment, and I know how hard you're working. It'd be good to have a comment on that, because also within the report you mentioned that affects the balance of what we can deliver in-house and externally, so it'd just be helpful for a wee comment on that, Kevin.
Through you, Chair, in terms of the work that we will be delivering and the resources that we have within our depots, we have a combined workforce across ARA, and my intention is, always has been my intention, is that we allocate the resources against the overall programme for both authorities, and I've been having that discussion with our depot managers. But we also have been having difficulty in terms of recruiting road workers. So what we have developed is a training programme, and we will bring in trainee road workers, and we will grow our own within the service. We do have an ageing workforce, and we have to look at that for the future. So we have put in place a training foreman. We have appointed a training foreman, and then we will then advertise for these trainee road worker posts, and we will link in with SL33 to see if there's work that we can do with them in terms of that. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Kevin. That's quite encouraging. Drew?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Kevin, for a good paper. It's good to see a lot of good works planned for the Doon Valley. Can I take you to page 138, road safety education activities? Can you give us a wee bit more information on that? What actually is happening in the schools and stuff like that? I haven't seen much about, even a TV or anything like that, about children and crossing the road. So just wonder what we are doing in East Ayrshire.
To you, Chair. Our road safety team do a significant amount of work with the schools in terms of road cycling. We've also got the school streets programme that we've been working on, and we've piloted around several schools. We do a lot of promotion through our Facebook page, through Twitter, etc., and through our own website on road safety. Thank you, Chair.
That's great, Kevin. Thank you. Page 146, U760 Dalkearney. Can I just ask, is that Dalkearney Falls, Kevin?
I understand it is, but I can get that confirmed.
Right. And the one I've asked you for the past 6 years is the Clough Slip, Coal Glen. I believe that we've got the tender ready, but there's still ongoing issues with the landowners.
Through you, Chair, yeah, it's tender ready, and that we are continuing to discuss with landowners, and I'm hoping for a resolution in that quite soon. Thank you, Chair.
That's great. Just one last one. The Raycar and Charlotte Place in Bellsbank getting resurfaced. That's really good. And Blaney Avenue and Partner, and plus the extra parking bays in Hillcrest were fantastic, Kevin. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Drew. Okay, Jim, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. Just thanks for myself, Kevin. Delighted, obviously, to see the statistics on child casualties, and I think that remains a high focus for us. I think we've touched on the safe school streets, and prior to it, still pushing that park and stride objective for kids and especially parents to keep away for school. James Young Avenue, I see we're in the footpaths is both sides. I think maybe have a look at the road surface there. I know it's been highlighted in the past, but maybe with that additional funding that's coming, we could look at that. That's one of the scheme streets I think particularly we could maybe tie in. I'd be encouraged if that happened. One of the things for me, and I think probably all elected members have picked up in this, and I don't think it's a new thing that's came about, is the corporate littering with some of the utility companies that we use, not just it's the roads companies, and leaving their sandbags, their road signs, the plastic barriers. When we've got a big focus on littering of all kinds, I think it's glaringly obviously it's there. We see the old rusted signs, but I see new signs still been left, so maybe a focus on that. I'm encouraged to hear in that drive to meet net zero targets that parity with electric vehicles and internal combustion engines will be there in about 2025. I think it's an optimistic one, but I'd love to ken the source of that statistic, but I'll hope it's right. But for me, the big is about the corporate littering, if we can maybe have a focus on that with our contractors.
Through you, Chair, yeah, I have identified that myself as a travel down to work or out of work every day. I have asked our roadworks controller to raise at the ROC meeting, which is Roads Authority and Utility Companies, and she actually chairs that meeting, so we're right in there at the top. Given this meeting today, I'll be meeting with all our teams in terms of our programme going forward for 23-24, and our inspectors will be there, so they will be given the message to identify these areas where we've got significant signs lying about, get them picked up. It's got a bonus for me is that I've got a lot more signs that I don't need to purchase. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, just on that, maybe worth getting the range signs identified as part of that contract, so we know who's leaving their signs.
Yeah, through you, Chair, will do.
Good to see the Roads Department working abilities are to the fore here. That's very good, Kevin. Recycle. Good. Any other questions, comments? Just thank Kevin, just at the staff for all the hard work they do that last time of year, delivering these programmes. Thanks very much for the report. Can we agree the recommendations? Grand.